It's kind of wild to think about how one single region of the world could produce a series of empires that would go on to shape art, science, and politics for nearly 1,000 years. We're talking about a stretch of history from Spain all the way to India, where powerful dynasties rose and fell, but left behind a legacy we can still see today. So let's just dive right into this incredible story. Okay, just look at this map for a second. By 750 AD, the Caliphate was absolutely massive. It wasn't just big, it was a world-spanning empire stretched across 3 continents. Can you even imagine trying to run this thing? You've got dozens of different cultures, languages, religions, all under one rule. It's a huge challenge. How do you actually govern something this vast? And that's really the core question we're going to tackle here. How did they pull it off? How did this series of powerful dynasties manage this sprawling empire and, in the process, literally change the course of world history? So our story kicks off with the first great dynasty to face this challenge, the Umayyads. They basically inherited this enormous, rapidly expanding territory and had to figure out, okay, how do we actually run this place? And their solution was, honestly, surprisingly modern. They set up a really sophisticated bureaucracy using these specialized government departments called diwans. You can think of them like modern ministries. You had one for taxes, another for official letters, even a postal service, and a military board to manage the army. This wasn't just about shuffling papers. This was the high-tech administrative engine of its day that kept the whole empire running. Another super important step for building an empire? You gotta have your own money. These silver dirhams right here were some of the very first coins minted by a Muslim government. And this was more than just cash. It was a powerful symbol of independence and, a really practical tool for tying the empire's huge economy together. Now, the Umayyads weren't just administrators. They were absolutely conquerors. And their most dramatic move was their expansion into Europe, which all started right here, at this famous landmark, the Rock of Gibraltar. But its name holds the key to the whole story. Picture this. The year is 711 AD. An Umayyad general, Tariq ibn Ziyad, leads his army from North Africa right into Spain. And according to the legend, he does something unbelievably bold. He orders his own ships to be burned. With the sea behind them and the enemy in front, he gives this epic speech. There was no retreat. It was literally a point of no return. And here is the connection that's been hiding in plain sight the whole time. The name Gibraltar is actually just an evolution of the Arabic Jabal Tariq, which means the mountain of Tariq. So yeah, the landmark we know today is basically a permanent monument to the general who started it all. But the Umayyads left behind more than just names. They built architectural wonders that are still breathtaking today. We're looking at the magnificent Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem and the absolutely stunning arches of the Great Mosque of Córdoba in Spain. These weren't just buildings. They were huge statements of faith, power, and a seriously flourishing culture. So you see all this, the military victories, the brilliant administration, the incredible culture, and you have to ask yourself, what went wrong? How could a dynasty this powerful just collapse after only about 90 years? Well, it turns out the seeds of their downfall were planted from the inside. The Umayyads basically ran their empire on a policy of Arab superiority. All the best jobs, all the privileges, they were saved for Arabs. And this created a ton of resentment among the growing number of non-Arab Muslims, the Mawalis. This division, it became the empire's fatal flaw. And it created an opening for their rivals, the Abbasids, who were just waiting for their chance. And that brings us to the Abbasids. They overthrew the Umayyads in 750 AD and kicked off a totally new era. They completely flipped the script. The empire's focus shifted from pure conquest to culture, science, and knowledge. And this shift, well, it sparked what we now call the Islamic Golden Age. The Abbasids moved the capital to a brand new city, Baghdad. And it very quickly became the intellectual center of the entire world. They learned how to make paper from the Chinese, which, completely changed how knowledge could spread. Scholars there developed algebra, doctors made huge leaps in medicine, artists created amazing new forms like those intricate arabesque patterns. It was just an explosion of innovation. For 500 years, Baghdad was this shining beacon of learning. But the end was swift and brutal. In 1258, the Mongol armies under Hulagu Khan just swept in from the east. They sacked the city, burned its legendary libraries, and brought the Abbasid Caliphate to a sudden, devastating end. But the end of the Abbasids didn't mean the end of Islamic empires. Not at all. As their central power collapsed, the huge territory they used to rule just started to fragment. It was like a giant plate shattering, and all these new, powerful dynasties rose up to claim the pieces. This timeline gives you a quick snapshot of the new players on the field. You've got the Fatimids popping up in North Africa, the Seljuk Turks in Central Asia, then later Saladins, Ayyubids, and finally the Mamluks in Egypt. The old, unified caliphate was gone. It was replaced by this patchwork of competing states. So among these new powers, you have the Fatimids, who founded the city of Cairo and its famous Al-Azhar Mosque. Then came the Ayyubids, a dynasty founded by one of history's most famous figures, Saladin. He is a legend in both the East and the West for his leadership during the Crusades. And then you have the Mamluks, and their story is just unbelievable. They started out as non-Muslim slave soldiers, but they rose through the ranks, overthrew their own masters, and started their own dynasty in Egypt. And after the Mongols destroyed Baghdad, it was the Mamluks who took on the vital role of protecting Islam's three holy cities. So, dynasties rise, dynasties fall. That's how history works, right? But what really matters is what gets left behind. The political borders they drew on the map are long gone, but their contributions to culture, science, and learning, those have lasted for centuries. And there's maybe no better symbol of that enduring legacy than Al-Azhar. It was founded by the Fatimids over 1,000 years ago. It grew from a mosque into one of the world's oldest universities, and it's still there today, a vibrant center of learning, a direct, living link to this incredible period of history. So, it all leaves us with this one big thought. We've seen empires built on conquest, and we've seen them fade away. But we've also seen that things built on knowledge, ideas, and learning, like Al-Azhar, can last. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is it exactly that makes a legacy outlast armies and borders and echo through 1,000 years of history?